From the footpath that runs alongside it, it's easy to mistake the broken bicycle monument to the 1989 student uprising in Tiananmen Square for a memorial to cyclists killed on Toronto's streets. You have to walk up closer on the grassy knoll to make out the distinct impressions of the tank treads in the bronze of the crushed upside-down bike. Designed by Bruce Parsons and Gu Zuhei, the wall sculpture was a gift from the Toronto Association for Democracy in China to the University of Toronto, more specifically, the University of Toronto Student Council. The university administration preferred to publicly distance itself from the project, with Chinese politics being a charged issue in this country. That is why the monument occupies a wall of the UTSC building. The student union and its building are technically separate from the university. The UTSC wall sculpture, dedicated to the students and citizens of China in memory of those who gave their lives for democracy during the Tiananmen Square uprising, has remained firmly in place since it was unveiled in 1992. Every year since, there has been a ceremony to mark the student uprising that began in April 1989. The protests were sparked by the death of a liberal reformer and a deposed Communist Party General Secretary Hu Yaobang, a leading voice for political and economic reforms in China. A small group of protesters gathered in the square the day after his death. By the second day, some 100,000 students had showed up to demand political reforms. Many of them rode to the square on their bikes every day to take part in the protests that, at their height, attracted more than 500,000 people. The protests would go on for 7 weeks and culminate on June 4th with Chinese authorities sending in the tanks. Several hundred protesters would be killed, although other estimates put the number of dead in the thousands. Many more would be arrested. One of the Tiananmen uprising's best-known participants, Liu Disheng, settled as a refugee in Canada. Liu spent 9 years in prison for throwing an ink-filled egg at the iconic portrait of Mao Zedong in Tiananmen Square. During a commemoration at a ceremony at the memorial in 2006, he offered on the subject of engagement with China that it is like drinking poisonous water to quench one's thirst. For many, the Tiananmen uprising marked the last best hope for democratization in China. The student protests continue in Hong Kong more than 3 decades later, only this time over China's human rights abuses. The pandemic has added another layer to the complicated push for democratization in China, with antipathy over the country's role in the spread of the coronavirus leading the growing anti-Asian sentiment in Canada and elsewhere. Sadly, the anti-China backlash may only set back the cause for democracy.